welcome to the Geek Legion of Doom. I'm going to do a tag video. Now I saw this on You and Your Horror Movies. Matt there actually did an A to Z of Blu-rays, and I thought it might be a bit fun to go through some of mine, and obviously go through the actual A to Z that I've got myself. Now I will prefix it by saying the majority of my collection is actually in storage, so I'm actually missing a couple of letters. So can't do the full alphabet, but we will go through what I have got to hand. So we'll talk a little bit about each of these films in very kind of brief detail. This is an open tag if anyone wants to do it. I will say if Blu-ray Ben is watching, I'd love to see your version of this, but this is open to anyone who fancies it. So let's get started. So the A movie is going to be this one called Afflicted, which is a found footage vampire film. One of the best found footage films I've come across. If you haven't seen this one, it's definitely worth checking out. A pretty decent horror, despite the fact it's got kind of a boring cover. Moving on to B. If you've watched my channel for any number of time, you've probably heard me talk about this film. This is called Borderlands. It is another found footage film. It's actually called Final Prayer in America, but the original English title is Borderlands, and is my favourite found footage movie of all time. It is absolutely horrifying, very, very creepy. It's not particularly gory or anything like that, but it's just a great, tense atmosphere. Definitely check this one out. So Final Prayer if you're from the States. C, we'll go with The Clown. I do have a steelbook of this, but I thought I'd just show this version because it's probably easier to see on camera. Great little horror film. The director of this is actually going to be doing the new Spider-Man Homecoming, actually. So, you know, little factoid for you there. Obviously gives a new spin on the horror that is clowns, and obviously with the new It remake coming up, it's never a great time to check out another clown horror movie. Just got this one. It's pretty gory, pretty gruesome, and a lot of fun. D, we're going to have a look at a movie called The Demolitionist, which is a kind of RoboCop style, kind of superhero film, really. Basically, Nicole Eggert is a kind of a police officer that is, you know, wounded and basically enhanced with a variety of kind of robotics, and she's after kind of gangster Richard Grieco in lots of kind of, I think this is a 90s film, 90s action there. Kind of love this movie. Definitely a cheesy B movie, but there you go. So, Evil Dead 2 is my all-time favourite film. So this one had to get a bit of a mention, obviously. This particular movie is the UK steelbook that is sold out now, sadly. If you haven't already got one. My absolute favourite film of all time. I don't really talk too much about it. Love it. So for F, we are going to be talking about Fright Night. So this is the UK steelbook again. Love this movie. This is on my top 10 list of all-time favourite films. So love this movie. Wasn't so keen on the remake. I actually like the sequel nearly as much as the original, though. I recently watched the You're So Cool Brewster documentary, and they kind of dismiss the sequel a little bit, which I think is a little unfair. But this movie is fantastic. I still say this is probably better than the sequel, but the sequel is right up there as well. For G, I actually went with a movie called Ghost Hunters. Now, this is an asylum picture, but it's actually quite fun. I enjoyed this movie quite a bit. It's actually quite well made, and it's made in this kind of style of a James Wan movie. And the premise of this one basically is almost, if you can imagine Ghostbusters, but without the comedy, taken sort of somewhat seriously. Yeah, there are some kind of questionable plot points and stuff like that, but nonetheless, I thought this was quite a fun film. Definitely one of the Asylum's better movies. I know that's not saying much, but I actually really enjoyed this film, so go check it out. H is going to be Hostage, starring Bruce Willis, and I got this metal pack in CX. Now, I've not actually watched this movie yet, but it's kind of one of these films that is on my list to watch at one point. You know, I still kind of like Bruce Willis. I know he's kind of gone off the reservation a little bit in recent years, but nonetheless, you know, I still think he's a solid action star. So this one is called Identify, obviously for I. Now this is a little bit of a cheat because this movie is actually called Kill Command in every other country other than France, and this is a French steelbook, but I'm keeping it as my I because I love this film. This is a really nice little sort of modern sort of science fiction film about killer robots. It pretty much follows the same story as Dog Soldiers, just replacing the werewolves with robots even. Replacing the werewolves with robots. Decent effects, lots of practical kind of robotics on display here. Worth checking out. Kill Command if you're from outside of France, but this one, as you can see, the French steelbook. Jay, we're going to have a look at John Carter. Bit of a misfire from Disney. I actually quite enjoyed this film. I saw this one at the cinemas and I enjoyed it. I actually got this movie with the Disney points, you know, from their kind of their website and all that. I enjoyed this movie. Poor marketing, and it's kind of a little bit retro for some people, I feel, but definitely a nice little science fiction film. So Kay, we're going to look at Kick-Ass. This is one of the UK steelbooks. There's a variety of different steelbooks you can get for this one. I really enjoyed this movie. I actually had read the comic before the film had come out, so I was kind of familiar with the source material. They have changed certain things in the comic, so it's not an exact duplicate of the actual story there, but nonetheless it's a decent film. I do love Nicolas Cage in this movie, and Chloe Grace Moretz I don't think has ever been better than she was in this film. L, we're going to be talking about the movie Leon. I know this is called The Professional in some countries, but in the UK it's called Leon. One of my most favourite action films ever. Jean Reno is amazing in this one, and it's obviously Natalie Portman's, I think it's her earliest role, to be honest, and I love the chemistry between them. There's a kind of like a extended version of this, which is also pretty good. I've actually got this the number of times. I've actually got it 3 different times, I think. This one is a metal pack. I think it's Dutch metal pack. I have the steelbook version of it as well, which is more or less the same, to be quite honest. Love this movie. I love the music as well. I really wish they would make a sequel and have Matilda, obviously grown up, played still by Natalie Portman. I think that would be amazing. M, we're going to go for the movie Mindwarp. This is a less well-known Bruce Campbell film, and it's kind of a post-apocalyptic film. Basically, the majority of humanity is kind of kept in these kind of like pods where they are in a virtual reality world where there's one woman sort of breaks out of it and kind of goes into the wasteland where she kind of meets Bruce Campbell as this kind of like Mad Max style warrior with various mutants and stuff like that. I actually find this is a fun movie. I like Bruce Campbell in this role. He's kind of more of a straight heroic role than his kind of normal kind of Ash kind of persona here. What a great movie. N, we got Non-Stop with Liam Neeson, and I have a nice lenticular sleeve on this one. So I really enjoyed this movie actually. I actually saw this recently. I bought this some time ago, but I only watched it. I kind of liked it. Now I had the twist spoilt for me, but I kind of forgot about it, which is quite good. Quite a lot of famous faces you'll see in this film as well. I don't think it's as good as like Taken and stuff like that, but nonetheless, I still think it's a pretty decent actioner. Oh, so we're going to be talking about the movie Orc Wars. I love this film. This is a guilty pleasure, but I do love it. This is the French Blu-ray, and I got the French one because I prefer the cover on it. Now this movie is almost an unofficial spin-off of Lord of the Rings. Basically, it is a kind of like a portal that opens, and the kind of the Uruk-hai style orcs from Lord of the Rings basically spill into our world. There is actually another movie called Orcs, which is similar in almost. This is almost a remake, but there's a little bit more to this film, and you do have a dragon in it as well. I would recommend this film. It doesn't get great reviews, but I think it's pretty good. There you go. Pitch Black, obviously for P here. Vin Diesel, one of his kind of early roles basically, and he's kind of had this franchise and it's never really taken off. This one is definitely the best in the series, I would say, and it's a pretty decent kind of alien flick with quite a nice conceit there. An annoying kind of horizontal kind of style steelbook here, landscape steelbook. Not a huge fan of them, to be honest, but it's a pretty decent movie. For R, I'm going to look at this movie here. This is actually part 2. Ryun Kenshin 2, based on a Japanese manga. I picked up this steelbook second hand from CX, so it was pretty cheap. So there you go. For S, we're going to have a look at Star Crash, which was a Italian kind of rip-off film, you know, obviously in the vein of Star Wars. It even has lightsabers in it. An early role for David Hasselhoff, and this one stars Caroline Munro. I was lucky enough to meet Caroline Munro at a convention, and she has signed this, as you can probably see here. So I'm pretty happy with that. This really is a crappy film, but I love it. I love it. It's got a planet of Amazon women, stop motion effects, a cool robot called Elle. I enjoy this film a lot. For T, we're going to be talking about Turbo Kid, and this was based on a YouTube short called T is for Turbo, so it stands to reason. Obviously we talk about it in T. This was probably my favourite film of 2015. I love the hell out of this film. It's essentially, if you haven't seen it, it's a kind of a retro style movie. In the 80s they made a lot of these kind of like post-apocalyptic films, and in the wake of Mad Max, and this is obviously it's a 2015 film, but it's made in the style of those kind of 80s films. There's lots of kind of like homages to the kind of the films, that style of that time. It's got a great soundtrack by Lematos, really memorable characters, loads of gore. It's extremely gory, but it's kind of done in a Peter Jackson-ish way where it's kind of tongue-in-cheek. Fantastic film. I love this film so much. Turbo Kid. Universal Soldier, The Day of Reckoning for You. I was struggling a bit with Use, to be honest with you, so this is one of the ones that I have got. I love the original Universal Soldier, which I don't actually have, to be honest. This is one of the kind of the more recent sequels. Wasn't a huge fan of this one, but it's got a decent cast. Jean-Claude Van Damme, obviously Dolph Lundgren. You've got Scott Adkins in it as well, who has really kind of like stepped up his game in kind of recent years. So you know, it has some kind of watchability in it, but it's, you know, it's somewhat forgettable, to be honest with you. The Vampire Diaries. This is actually a spin-off of the Subspecies series, which is a full moon series, obviously about the vampire Radu, who is kind of like a Nosferatu-style vampire. This one is a spin-off. I only had the one film, and is extremely a kind of gothic style B-movie vampire film. If you're a fan of like Interview the Vampire, it's very much in the vein of that, but a kind of a B level essentially. There's not a lot actually happened in this film. It's light on action and things like that, but it's definitely a kind of almost a character-driven film. But its real strength here is the kind of the filming was in kind of Eastern Europe. It definitely has this kind of like you know, very gothic-y feel to it. I really enjoy this film actually, and this is an Australian Blu-ray, but you can actually get. I think it's been released in the UK now normally. So check it out. W. I didn't know whether to go with Weird Science or this one. So I thought we'd talk about this one because probably less people have heard about it. So this is a movie called Where, and it's one of the better werewolf films I've seen in recent years. And it's a kind of found footage film, but it's done in a kind of quite a realistic manner. It's a bit of a different take on the werewolf genre to a certain degree. Somewhat, I guess you would call it more of a realistic take. I quite liked it. I mean, some people may be a little bit disappointed with the werewolf effects, but I feel they've kind of gone for more of a grounded approach. But I would definitely check it out if you're a found footage fan. X-Men 2. most of my in fact, nearly all of my superhero films are in storage. I just happened to forget to put this one in there, so I'm using this as my X. So, obviously, loads of X-Men movies. This one, you know, arguably one of the better ones. For a long time, a lot of people thought this was the best one. This particular one is this slipcase from HMV, although I believe you can get a steelbook version of this. You know, I'm not sure which is my favourite X-Men film if you take out things like Deadpool and Logan and stuff like that. I would say probably First Class, to be honest, but I do like X-Men too. There you go. And for Z, God, I nearly said Z then. I'm from England, so it's Z. We're going to have a look at the movie Zombievers, this is a Italian version. So obviously it's a slightly different kind of style of Blu-ray here, basically. This one's got a slipcase. There is a German steelbook, I think, but the spelling was different, so I didn't really want to get that. This is a kind of a fun B movie, obviously about zombie beavers. Pretty much says it on there. Now, not serious film. I wasn't blown away by it, but it was kind of fun. So you may have noticed there was a couple of letters missing there. I didn't have anything to hand for. I think it was Q and Y, but there you go. So anyway, like I said, that is my A to Z of Blu-rays that I have to hand anyway. What did you think? Any kind of films there that tickle your fancy? And please do, anyone that fancies a go at this themselves, feel free. It's an open invitation. And Ben from Blu-ray, Ben, if you're watching this, I want to see your A to Z. Thanks for your time. Bye for now.